Hi. Welcome.
Is this sped up?
You were going to shake my hand.
No. Oh, yeah.
Oh, this guy's not paying attention. This guy kind of looks like someone I know. He looks like the 32-year-old version of a kid in IT. You know what I'm saying? He looks like a kid in IT, but he looks like 27 still. He's still a little baby face.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks
Welcome to
for having
Hawkfish.
I almost choked on my water. That's disgusting. Get this out of my face. He looks like a chud. Yeah, he wears his shirt like a chud too. According to Hawkfish, an unprecedented 40% of Americans registered voters are expected to vote by mail in the presidential election.
A mirage, by definition, is something that appears to be there, but that doesn't really exist. And you have a model scenario called the Red Mirage. What does that mean?
The reason we talk about a red mirage is, in fact, because we believe that on election night, we are going to see Donald Trump in a stronger position than the reality actually is. We are sounding an alarm and saying that this is a very real possibility, that the data is going to show on election night an incredible victory for Donald Trump. That is likely to be what we see when every legitimate vote is tallied and we get to that final day, which will be someday after election day. It will, in fact, show that what happened on election night was exactly that, a mirage. It looked like Donald Trump was in the lead, and he fundamentally was not when every ballot gets counted.
You have a result on election night where it appears that Donald Trump has won, but a result after ballots are counted that show that Joe Biden has actually won.
That's right.
Let's get an obvious question out of the way first. Hawkfish is a company that's started by Michael Bloomberg, that does work for the DNC, that's doing work for pro-Biden super PACs. If I'm a Republican voter, an independent voter, a skeptical Democrat, why should I listen to you?
One of the things that we believe is that facts matter. It's not about disinformation or misinformation or using fear as a tactic. There are objective truths in this world today.
And how do you build your modeling? How are you basing your projections?
We essentially built a simulator where it's a sequence of sliders, and you just pull those sliders to start seeing what the scenarios will show you. What's it going to look like on election night? What's it going to look like the day after, and the day after that, and the day after that? In most every year, Democrats are more likely to vote by mail than Republicans, and that has only increased this cycle. We see in the data that twice as many voters intend to cast a ballot by mail than have ever before. They are disproportionately Joe Biden supporters. Because there are absolutely some ballots that were mailed in that get counted sooner because folks were proactive and got it in as soon as they possibly could, or dropped it off, or showed up to a polling station where early votes allowed. But it's going to take a while. It might be weeks. Because absentee ballots inevitably are harder and slower to count, we are going to find ourselves that when you have those prototypical cable news talking head moments of saying, well, you know, here's what we're seeing and this is what it looks like, it's going to show Donald Trump in the lead in a lot of key places on election night when in-person reporting has occurred.
What about California or New York?
California is blue, New York is blue, right? Some of the, but Virginia is a really good example of a state that should be blue that turns out red in this moment.
On election night.
On election night.
Okay.
So a state like Pennsylvania, Florida, it's in play by just a couple points. And that's what tips it in one direction or another. If you were to essentially average battleground state polling, Joe Biden appears to be ahead by about 8%. And so if you have a number of ballot challenges in a state like that, as big as it is, as large as the population is, as diverse as the population is, it can make a really big difference over those next 10 days.
So I'll stop him there. I can take over the rest of this. What this basically means is that with so many people voting by mail now, and with so many of those being Democratic voters, it is going to be a very different election on election night than it will be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days after. And the problem isn't that this is going to happen, because that's just like elections. The problem is Trump. Trump has been using this time, and the Republicans have been using this time to fearmonger and bang the drums of voter fraud this entire time. You see, anytime if you go into the reporting on Twitter or wherever that a Democrat has won this or that, you'll see a bunch of people in the comment section screeching, "Fraud! It has to be fraud. The radical left would never win a race like this. It has to be fraud." So that's only going to increase with this next election, with these people sitting here saying, "Yo, hey, what isn't that really interesting? Our boy Donald Trump was winning on election night, but once Democrats got their hands on those ballots and saw that they weren't going to win, they twisted and turned them and polymorphed those boys right into Biden votes, and then stole the election from our good old Donald Trump to never be seen again." So that's what we're going to get, and that's the scary part, right? Because we're not sure what's going to happen now. And he said lots of votes are going to be counted in a little bit earlier, but a lot of votes weren't. And it's very likely that lots of these states will come down to the wire. It may just be 2 or 3 points that swing it. And if there are a couple thousand, a couple tens of thousands of votes that need to be counted still, 1, 2, 3 days after the election, that's fine. But during all of that time, Trump is just going to be banging the war drum, banging the civil war drum, saying that this is, as his lead in lots of these places get diminished and diminished and diminished as rightfully more Democratic votes come in, because more people who are Democrat are going to be voting by mail. His lead is going to shrink in a lot of these places 2, 3, 4 days after the election. And what we see on election night is not going to be the election that we see at the end of things. And he's just going to use that opportunity to mobilize his base and say that the election has been stolen. The country is being the country's will is being thwarted. And maybe he'll make maybe he'll say, they got a Second Amendment for a reason. And then we're going to see a couple shootings of polling places or some like DNC headquarters. It's not going to be good. I'm telling you that now. This is what's going to happen. Trump is going to use this time to mobilize his base, to provoke stochastic terror. That's the only thing that I can pull from this, is that Trump is going to use this to get stochastic terror, and he's already primed it with the clip that we saw earlier with him like, yes. The Democrats will try to throw away your vote, so just vote twice. Just commit a felony and vote twice. Just do it, my dude. Just do it for me, okay? Take one for the team. The trap is set, and it's in the trap is set, and it's on your front door. You're going to walk through it, and you're going to get caught. There's no way out of it. With people wanting to vote by mail, with the request of mail-in ballots, with the way that with how long it takes to get counted. This may be a really contentious. My bad. This is 100% going to be an extremely contentious election cycle, and one that I think is going to lead to a lot of terror. So maybe if you live in some like blue areas, maybe try to not go to your local Walmart for a couple weeks. After the election, maybe. Be careful. I really feel like there's going to be some with QAnon out there already. I'm not sure if Trump losing is in the cards for Q, but if it isn't, be prepared for some terror. It's going to happen. It sucks, but hey, this is what happens when you put a fascist in the White House. You know what I'm saying?